Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. Enjoy personalized comfort for better sleep night after night. It's the final days of our Black Friday sale. Recharge this season with a bundle of cozy, soothing comfort. Now only $17.99 for our C2 mattress and base, plus free premium delivery. Prices higher in Alaska and Hawaii. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
It's Sunday, the 25th of May, and this is Doing the Thing. I'm Ashleigh Stiles, and I'm here with It's a Fandom Thing's Erin Marlow.
Hello.
And Wizard Radio Station's own James Gilmore.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about everything happening in our world this week. First things first, though, both of you, Erin first, James second. I think we're doing that order. How are you guys today? How has your week been so far?
Good. Very busy. Very, very busy. I feel like every week is just kind of blending together for me right now. So it's just, but it's been good.
I feel like it's that time of the year, isn't it? Where
yeah.
I wake up, I don't know, is it spring, is it summer yet? I've had an alright week. I feel like nothing worth reporting on. Just a week that could have been last week and probably will be this week, you know?
Well, we've certainly had our week, and we hope that all of you have had our week too. If you're listening live on Wizard Radio Station, where we do the thing live every Sunday from 8 p.m. UK time, you can get involved via our social channels. Now, we're going to go to our first top thing we're going to talk about this week, which is Elton John is back in the headlines recently, and I presume you two have heard about this. He called the British government absolute losers and said that he felt betrayed, incredibly betrayed, over plans to exempt technology firms from copyright laws in a exclusive he did with Laura Kunzberg. He said basically that plans for the moment for tech firms, AI firms, to use AI to scrape artist content without paying them would be, quote, theft and thievery on a high scale, unquote. Well, we'll go to James first. What do you think about this? Do you think that Elton John is correct in his assessment here?
I just want to say, only a pop star could call the government absolute losers in that way. And even it's Elton John, who's probably the least pop star at this portion of his career. He feels more like a sort of member of the House of Lords, but
yeah,
like a sort of elder statesman type. When I saw the headline, I was like, you know what? This is the sort of thing that in America, an actual politician would say, and you'd go, you've got to be more professional than that. And so I'm just glad that a pop star is like using their right as a pop star to sort of say it how it is. I do think, in my opinion, the government's sort of bowing down to tech companies over AI is a really sorry attempt at trying to like be really friendly and pally and hopefully trying to get them to invest more. I think if there's one thing we know about people that run tech companies over the past 20 years, they don't care. They're going to do exactly what they want, however they want to do it. And really, even if the law says one thing, the fines and any repercussions just become a part of the cost of business. So I do think it's on the government to protect artists and to ultimately protect copyright.
What do you think, Erin? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think AI, first of all, infuriates me and terrifies me. And as someone who loves and supports a lot of independent artists, I really like a lot of what Elton John says when you look further about how this will hurt smaller artists and younger artists, because that art is being stolen left and right. Like, you will just see little bits by big companies will use something and you can tell it's AI, but you can also tell that they also use someone else's art. And that's thievery to me. Someone worked really hard on that. And if you don't give them credit and give them some kind of monetary credit as well, if you're making money off of it, that is so awful to me. And if we are saying it's okay to not give them credit, then that is setting a very dangerous precedent. So yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with Elton John on this one.
I think we got quorum here, because, for me, and I've said this before, that I'm not tech phobic about the technology in the broad. I think there's applications, scientific applications, where it's proven very useful and effective, but I think generative AI for artistic purposes is the absolute worst thing you can do with it. To me, the human quality is always what makes art art. You can look at a cave painting from 10,000 years ago and know that a person on a day decided that that was important to do and did it. If you knew that they had just instantly spat it out with absolutely no thought or care or intention or anything, then it would really just cheapen the whole thing. Now, part of this was announced back in January. Keir Starmer said he wanted to make AI, quote, work for working people, unquote, as part of like a plan to basically boost the economy. What it is it's attracting investment, ideally, by AI companies in Britain to build data centers in order to try and make the economy do stuff. But it's not doing it at the minute. I'm going to channel Bizarro Ashleigh, who is in favor of this, because I am most decidedly not. And I'm going to say, is there an argument that the UK ought not to be left behind in an innovation race? Is that a consideration here, or is that sort of meritless?
I think it's meritless, because I don't think that's how innovation works. I think that in the UK, like, if you have a healthy enough environment for businesses to operate full stop, then within that, and especially in a country like the UK, that in some ways is better to do business in than many parts of America. Like, a lot of these tech companies are based in California, which the sort of tax programs are crazy on businesses. So I think it's got to do less with incentive. I think, and I definitely don't think letting them run wild on copyright is the answer. I think that making sure that we have facilities, and, if we're going to just ignore the environmental impacts for a moment, and that seems to be something that the government are okay with ignoring through this, like making sure that there are data processing centers and things like that, that will encourage innovation. But I don't think that can be at the, I don't think you can make an exception of like a centuries old law that if you let tech companies just forget about copyright law, like that underpins so much of not just art, but broader way that society and that's a part of the incentive for innovation and creating creative works to begin with.
Yeah, Erin, what do you think about that? In terms of that argument, basically, that it's a copyright law is kind of an anchor for the creative industry. I know, obviously, your podcast deals a lot with creative everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there are so many, I do agree as far as this is kind of taking it back a little bit, but I do agree that there are some good aspects of AI, like there's scientific stuff that is wonderful. But with the artistic element of it, and the copyright laws, there are so many young artists that are getting taken advantage of anyway. And so when you have another tool that's going to come in and take advantage of them, especially in an industry right now, like Hollywood, stuff like that, are hurting so bad. That industry is struggling big time. And so then you've got AI coming and chomping at the bit. And I think a lot of studio heads, and I don't know if that's the same case in the UK, are if we can just skirt that copyright, if we can skirt that little artist, and we can just make all the money from this AI that we may not have to pay as much for, it'll make us more money in the long run. And then we can cut out the middleman, and the middleman is like the artist. It's the one who's creating it. So it's such a weird thing where, because you'll see people like, I created this whole trailer with AI, and it's like so dangerous because they're also using the likeness of other people, and you get into dangerous territories of deep fakes and all of that kind of stuff. But I do think the copyright thing, I really think we need to protect and nurture young artists, because I'm worried that if we lose art, we're already struggling with so much having to do with humanity. And if we lose the person behind the art, we lose the humanity in art. And that is very scary.
Yeah, I just wanted to add as well that I think a part of the issue of generative AI is that we, especially on the internet, we exist within an attention economy. And the amount of things the past few days I've seen, because Google had their big conference and they unveiled new generative AI tools. And there's been these videos going around which are like incredibly realistic and sort of impressive, full videos and scenes made with AI. And I think it's meant to be comedic. It's these people going, wow, can you believe that we're a prompt? Like, we're just an AI prompt. Look at us. And in all these different scenes. And I mean, it's not funny. It's cringy, but that's taking a share of the time. If I was going to sit down and watch TikTok for 10 minutes, and I've seen 5 of those, instead of videos from 5 comedians or actors or actual human beings that I could discover and become a fan of, I think that's also where you've got the part of it which is taking jobs, like actual jobs, or cutting people out of the creative process. But you've also got that so much of the economy online is attention based, and this is just flooding the market with more content than a human being can create. And I think that's actually where there could be a massive economic breakdown if the government doesn't, like, you have to ask, where's this money going to go? Where does, for those videos, the portion of the TikTok creator fund, who's benefiting from that? What happens when to the whole ecosystem of merchandise and live concerts and all this stuff, it all breaks down. These are multi-billion pound and dollars industries because people are spending their time engaging with content that has nothing deeper there.
I think there's also an aspect of it that I think you touched on, James, that's like, it's an attention economy, but it's also, it's not to say that like art is better or worse than other art, but I think consumers, as consumers of pop culture, should want things that are good or things that are bad, but bad sincerely. If you like bad movies or whatever, you should like it because it's genuine. There's something real behind it. You should want things that are good in that sense, that have been made with love and care, even if they suck. You should not want things that are bad and were just thrown together by a corporation to make a buck, because that's all that's going to happen. And if you allow that sort of gate to open, and that's what becomes dominant in pop culture spaces, it reminds me of every time I see those fake trailers of like, oh, look at what an AI made of this movie, and it's just an endless series of unrelated shots of nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but there's nothing here. It's not anything. It's just a dude on a boat. Why is he on a boat? There's no, there's no setup, there's no framing, there's no plot. It's not anything. It's not real. And that's kind of what gets my goat. But in terms of, this being the state of things, every single day we're seeing stuff on social media, people going, oh, look how great this is. It's all over for artists now. Look at this. Every time I see it, I remain pretty well unimpressed. Do you think there's anything to it that any day now it's going to be all over for regular artists and writers and filmmakers and musicians?
I don't. I like to have the hope that like humanity will gravitate towards, if only like economically, the better content and the better arts. I guess what I can't decide, I'm really interested in Erin's opinion on this. Like, do we think that this is going to be a narrative that exists for now, like the rise of AI and sort of like virtual reality is going to slip away because it doesn't reach mass populace, it doesn't live up to the promise? Or so like, is this a narrative in a horror film, or are we living the film? Is this actually going to happen?
I'm a pessimist by nature, so I just will put that out there.
Oh, great.
Oh, God.
It's scary. I'm scared that it is going to take some jobs away. I don't think it'll completely take over the whole industry because I don't think that's possible. But you look at artists like Natasha Lyonne, who's big, was on the picket lines and everything when SAG-AFTRA struck and everything like that. And she has struck this deal. She said she's going to give credits to artists, but with AI, with an AI company and doing some kind of AI work. And a lot of people were very hurt by that because they felt like, if you're supporting us, why are you supporting something that's going to take away jobs from us or could potentially do that? So when you see big names like that get behind it, that's what frightens me. Is it's like people are like, well, we'll just put a little bit of AI in here, but the rest will be human beings. And the little bit can grow and grow. But I don't think it'll ever be where there are no artists working, there's no writers working, it's all AI, because you'll lose something. And audiences that will go and see stuff will be tired and bored with it really quickly because it's a business and money talks, and people will be like, well, this is just like that thing I saw 2 weeks ago, only different faces on the same bodies kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I do think it'll never replace everything, but it's like the meme that's going around, Sarah Connor from Terminator watching us all getting into AI, just shaking her head like, did you not learn anything from our movies?
I agree with you, Erin. I feel like, though, there will always be artists in the process because, at least from my opinion, I've tried loads of AI tools. I've tried loads of AI employees and assistants, and they never live up to their promise. They need so much human input because all these are, at least right now, are like widgets and tools, and they don't replace the process. So I think in filmmaking, you're going to need an artist to input and edit and tweak, and then it's, well, if the artists don't want to use those tools, then the studios won't have people to use those tools. Ashleigh, I feel like you're somebody who would have tested out AI tools as well. You haven't?
Nada. No. I have a pretty, it's for me, I don't mean to get on a high horse thing. For me, it's a pretty staunch, I've shared memes that have been generated by AI back at the very beginning when people were doing it, before I realized how deleterious it was to the environment, all the other stuff. But I've never used those tools, and I've sort of made a commitment to not do so as much as is humanly possible. I really dislike the fact that Google makes you use AI when you Google search for things now. I don't know how to turn it off. I'm sure there's a way. But for me, it's like there's things that need to be remembered, is that a lot of the people who push the tech at the minute, the big evangelists who are saying, oh, it's going to be the next big thing, it's just over the horizon, they're the people who sunk a lot of money into it. They're the people who would really stand to benefit from this tech taking off in a huge way. I think you mentioned it before. So it's kind of the same with the VR stuff. Facebook saying, well, you better get on the bandwagon because our VR tech, everybody's going to be using it with the metaverse. And then that went absolutely nowhere because it sucked. And it was a massive loss for the company. But for a couple of years, it was all you could see online. People talking about, it's the next big thing is going to be the metaverse. But those people had a really vested interest in trying to make it the next big thing. That doesn't mean it will be, because it doesn't mean it's any good. It just means there's a lot of oxygen, because people who have a real keen desire to see it be the next big thing are really trying to make it so.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I mean, they literally renamed the company. Anyway. They
did, actually.
Yeah. That was a great discussion. And we're going to be back after this break talking more. So don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Doing the Thing. We're back for another discussion. Now, this past week, new footage of the Titan submersible has been released, which shows the moment that the Titan, on its journey down to try to see the Titanic, was lost. And you hear a faint bang in the distance. The question, as this news story has resurfaced, the question that we're asking is whether society has learnt the lessons of the Titan and these so-called sort of rich toys, or perhaps does the recent Katy Perry spaceflight, which also took over the news, prove that we haven't? Ashleigh, what's your opinion?
one of those things where I think that this is it affects a very specific cut of people, as you say. It's the rich person toys thing, and I think that this is not a lesson that anybody has learned much from, because when this happened, there was a very interesting. The journalist Robert Evans on his podcast, he did a 2-part dissection of Stockton Rush, the CEO of OceanGate, who was killed in the submersible when it imploded. And if you listen to that dissection or any of the others, you realize that the whole thing was down to the fact that he was just obsessed with being this Captain Kirk explorer. Weirdly, he wanted to go into space when he was younger. But after, I think it was Virgin Galactic started to take off, he lost interest because he was like, well, I won't be the first. I won't be the special fancy lad who gets to be the real explorer. I'll just be a tourist. But ultimately, the whole thing was just a cosplay for him. He wanted to be a real undersea, Captain Nemo with the Nautilus, but he wanted to make a whole bunch of money and save a whole bunch of money on cheap parts, and this is where we get.
I think that there's a footage from when this happened that he was controlling the Titan. Also, it's a submarine. I'm not calling it a submersible. That's ridiculous. I know it's not a submarine, but it is. For all intents and purposes, to a member of the general public, it's a submarine. He was controlling it with like a PlayStation controller or something. And I have heard that this is, I feel like you're going to say it, this is not uncommon.
That's not the thing that was dangerous about it.
But,
there are many things that were wrong with this submarine.
Yeah,
that's weirdly not the thing that's dangerous.
But there was like, I think as people were piecing it apart, it's a risky sort of venture as a passenger even to go on, that when you're checking it out, you might want to be like, what are the things that make me think this might not be my life on? I mean, I've been on like a helicopter on holiday once, and I was like checking that the blades were spinning properly. I have no knowledge of helicopter blades, but I feel like you might just look for things that make you feel wary.
Yeah.
And Ashleigh, to your point, people put a lot of trust and faith in someone who shouldn't have. Erin, what do you think?
Yeah, I think billionaires I think billionaires live in this world that we don't even understand or know. I think, going back a little bit actually to the AI thing, it's almost like they don't have the same humanity, which I know may sound really like harsh, but I think it's kind of like they live in this imaginary play world where, because they have so much money, somehow it makes them immune to any disasters, to anything horrible happening, that if you have enough money, you are sure to survive everything and everything will be okay. And you also can show off how rich you are. And I think you also lose the connection to the quote unquote normal people out there. And so you don't realize that like things cost money, or like, gas costs money, or doing like the fact that Gayle King with the whole space thing said, when they were getting a lot of pushback, she's like, well, have you been to space? And until you've been to space, you can't say anything. Everyone's like, how have I been? I don't have the money you have. I can't go to space. So it's like they're in a different, separate world. And there's a show on Netflix right now, I don't know if it's in the UK yet, called Sirens. And it's all about how rich people are just so like apart from us. It's so weird, how money just controls it all.
Yeah, Sirens is brilliant, so 100% on board with that.
Funny.
But I think that I think you're right. But when you said about rich people feeling like almost there are no consequences, that's because so much of the Western world has been built to make that true. In that. Yeah. They build, or at least the stereotype is that they build shelters or houses that could, if you wanted to be an apocalypse planner, like you'd be a billionaire to go and make sure that you think you could survive it. There's all of these sort of, whether they're conspiracies or things that rich people might do, because money does buy you a lot of safety. And I think it does create like an invincibility layer where, yeah, if they are spending how many millions they'd spend to go on the Titan, they're going, they trust. I've looked in Stockton's eyes. I trust this man. Let's do it. That sort of stereotype. But actually, just to say I read this in a book, which doesn't happen often. But that's the worst way to tell if somebody's trustworthy or not. But this is the reality, the sort of morphed field of reality that a lot of rich people build around them that creates these situations. Ashleigh, what do you think?
I think that's exactly right. I remember there was a panel show, I think it was Jeremy Vine. He was doing something on TV I was watching, and there was a couple of people talking about Musk because he was in the news for whatever reason. And one of the panelists said, basically this guy is, I don't think he's particularly trustworthy or right about this issue. And one of the other panelists sort of gawked and said, but he's the richest man in the world. Surely that makes him one of the cleverest men in the world. And I was like, man, there's a really interesting story about him in one of the biographies that was written where he's playing poker at a house table. And he keeps going all in. This is Musk. And he keeps losing and he keeps going all in. He keeps buying back in. And eventually he wins one hand. He's like, right, well, that's enough for me. But it's like that sort of way of living is just not sustainable for any normal person. You cannot do that unless you are so wealthy that you are completely insulated from the consequences of your actions. Where that hits a brick wall is when you're Stockton Rush and you start messing with the unbreakable laws of physics. When you're down at 4,000 meters in a submersible submarine, where it is made out of the cheapest carbon fiber you can buy in a way that you think is innovative and groundbreaking, but is specifically not done because it is unsafe. And the expression, I think it was Hank Green said, you stop being biology and you start being physics. There's certain things that money cannot distort with that reality distortion field. It's an Icarus flight, it's an Aesop's fable. No matter how rich you are, if you start trying to abut the laws of actual reality, you are going to find a real hard landing. And that's kind of how it went down.
Ashleigh, I'm interested because I feel that you are a well-researched person, and that's a compliment. Can you explain, or you may need time to explain, what actually happened here? Because myself, and probably lots of people, we know that obviously the thing sort of imploded very quickly, and the people inside probably had no idea what was happening. But what actually happened here?
So as we understand it, basically the main complaint about safety that had been happening for a couple of years in the run-up, that had even seen one of the safety coordinators resign his position after his concerns were dismissed, was that the hull was made in two ways. First of all, it was built out of multiple materials, which is typically not done. Carbon fiber was used in the building of the hull, also typically not done. It's usually titanium because it's much stronger. Carbon fiber is like a very space-age tech. It's used in a lot of airplanes, and it is used. It's good in tension, but not compression. Basically, it's bad against pressure from the outside. But Stockton said, this is our new way of doing things. We're going to move fast. We're going to break things, build it like that. They did install a safety feature, which was an alarm that would go off in the event that the hull integrity failed. The problem is, if that happens, you have less than a third of a second before the submarine goes like that. So if you have an alarm that's going to go off when things are going wrong, it's not going to protect you. And basically, they built the submarine in a way that was considered by experts to be unsafe. There was that quote from one of the internal memos where Stockton Rush basically said, I'm really mad that you guys keep saying I'm going to keep people killed. I take it as an insult that you say I'm going to get people killed. And then it went down. It had done a number of dives before, but the thing about stress on the metals is it doesn't have an endless shelf life with materials like carbon fiber. It gets weaker every time you make the dive. And on this occasion, the hull ruptured, and within a fraction of a second, there's nothing you could do. The rescue, for hours, they thought maybe they're still alive, but most people who knew about submarines knew as soon as they realized what had happened, no, there's nothing you can do.
It's so interesting. And I think it validates all of the opinions on here. Not to move the conversation on very slightly, but I think this, to sort of what Erin said before as well, this is rich people doing things that that can't be explained with science, but feeling because of the money that's around them that everything's going to be okay. So, and this might be a hard thing to guess, if you had essentially unlimited money, billions of pounds or dollars, what is the thing? And I feel like with you two, it's going to be hard to get a silly thing out of you because I feel like there's too much logic involved here. But like, what is the thing you would like to try to do, or the thing whereby if something was offered to you that might not be accessible to the rest of the world, in the sort of Gayle King example, what's the thing you would want to take? Erin, I feel like you first.
Yeah, normally I'd be like, no, I want to build a huge, I want to make sure everybody has housing and everything, that would be my first initial thing. Or I want to build a huge, wonderful studio to record in. But the frivolous thing, and this is just something I've always dreamed of doing, and it's so silly and stupid, and I know if I died, it'd be totally my fault. I want to swim with sharks. So if I could set that up where it would be like in a great, wonderful place where I would just be there, and the particular sharks that might not be trying to kill me, that would be what I'd want to do. So that's kind of one of those stupid things where it's like, you could die if you do this, but I'd still want to do it. That's like one of my dream bucket list things.
But I feel like sharks only try to kill you if they think you're like tuna or something. But if they don't try to kill humans.
They're so misunderstood. But if anything were to happen to me, it'd be totally my fault. But I just would love to do that because they fascinate me and I love the ocean. And so that would be like my dream thing, would be to do that. So
that's so interesting. Yeah. Ashleigh, what would yours be?
I do have an answer for this, actually. What's interesting about my answer is it does show you the scale of like how much $1 billion or pounds is, that this would be not even a fraction of that cost. I would love to do a sort of Ewan McGregor style motorbike adventure. There's a road rally that's usually hosted in the summer called the Mongol Rally, which is a charity thing people pay. They drive really, really bad cars from London across Europe and Asia to Mongolia. I wanted to do that years ago. I would love to do that at some point. I'd love to do it on a motorbike. I think it would just be so cool. Again, it's not even approaching $1 billion. If you're like, hey, Ashleigh, what do you want to spend $1 billion on? I'm like, I'd like to buy a Triumph for 10 grand. But I would. I think it'd be really cool. Like, just take the time and, do the journey. And it would be dangerous. Not nearly as dangerous as going to space or climbing Everest or going down to the Titanic. But, something like that. I think that'd be fun.
I do feel like, though, going to space is probably not that dangerous in that in order to... they're so cautious, especially nowadays. And it's... Okay, Ashleigh's going to say something.
No, you're right. They are cautious. I do wonder, though, is that going to persist as you start to see more private companies get involved, as they start to broaden, like, who are we going to sell these tickets to? Is that caution going to stay? But you're right that they are cautious as of now.
Yes, yeah. Well, I mean, we've only seen in the past few months just how in America, particularly, like, there's been such a rise in air travel sort of catastrophes and errors and problems. And so these things are only safe whilst there's the infrastructure around them that can keep up with the amount of activity to monitor and make sure that things stay safe. I think that's what's happened partly with like air travel. Mine would be to go to space. And I do just want to say, in defense of Katy Perry and Gayle King, they didn't pay. My understanding is they didn't pay to go to space. They did it for publicity. Yeah. And I do think that there's like a way to do it. And I actually think that the backlash on Gayle King in particular was like a bit unfair, because she wasn't singing in that spaceship like Katy Perry was. Katy Perry was the one who sort of made space all about her. Gayle King seemed super humble. There was a scientist on there as well. And I think the part of the story there that a lot of people missed was apparently Jeff Bezos's, what was it, Blue Origin? A part of their mission is basically relocating junk from Earth to space. And that's essentially what this trip was in aid of. That's what I've heard, but I'm going to go to Ashleigh for the fact check.
I don't know, actually. I hadn't heard that before, that was sort of the purpose of it. I know the first Blue Origin one with Shatner and
Yes.
when Bezos was on himself with the cowboy hat, that did get flack for Bezos. Shatner's having this existential crisis as he comes down from it. And he had a very interesting take on having gone to space. It gave him some interesting perspective on the importance of environmentalism, quite funnily enough.
Wow.
And then Bezos comes, he said, I could see our beautiful blue marble from this cold void of endless nothing in space, and I realized how important it is that we cherish the world that we have from having sort of seen it. And he had this whole psychological shift. And then Bezos comes in the background, is like, who wants champagne? And he's holding glasses and popping the cork, and it completely deflates the moment. Yeah, but I don't know. It'd be interesting to know that there was like utility behind the trip, because you're not going to stop people going to space. That's just going to happen. And if they didn't pay for it, sure, whatever. But I think for Katy Perry in particular, given that she's tried to remodel her image around what she calls what is it, like conscious pop or something? Her sort of like movement she's trying to do with her last album, especially trying to be more conscious about the environment, about politics, to then be like, and for publicity, in the face of some of the worst cost of living in America and the world, I'm going to go to space and sing some pop songs in space. It's cool when the astronaut does it, when he's doing the science, when he does the Bowie, that's cool. You're a pop star. This is only tangentially of benefit. Yeah, it just feels a bit tone deaf.
Yeah. I think that's interesting. Do you think there's another pop star that would have been better, or is it just no pop star at all?
I don't know. That's a good question, because ultimately, what does it do? What does it prove? That you're going to space to raise awareness for ? It's not really, and with this one as well, it's the thing where they go into low orbit, so they're not going into space. It's going to space via technicality. I'm not trying to rob them of achievement here, but when you compare it to the people who go to the ISS and do the actual space work and the EVAs and have to train really hard to be astronauts rather than just putting on a jumpsuit and popping up for 5 minutes, it's I don't know that any pop star would be better than Katy Perry.
You know what? Actually, that's what I would do, Ashley. If I had unlimited money, I would take all the flack, all the backlash. I'd go to the ISS, because that would be like, even if it was for between two, so, I go up on one just as an extra spare part on a mission that's already going up. And then whenever the next one is, whether it's a couple days later, like coming down, or a week or a month, just stay there for a bit. Check it out. Be helpful. I'm sure they always need an extra pair of hands. And that would just be like extraordinary, I think. Although I keep seeing these videos on TikTok of people who work on the like telephone pylons, and they're like filming and they're like, look how high up I am. And I can't help but feel that it would sort of be a constant state of that, like a vertigo, and just anything could happen.
Do you reckon? Or is it like being in an aeroplane where you're so high up, you kind of lose context for how high it is? That like because you can see the Earth. It's not like being on the moon where it's like a tiny blue dot, but is it not so far away that you kind of lose the perspective?
Well, maybe also because of the anti-gravity of it, you sort of might feel a bit cushioned just by the world around, like I was going to say air around you, the sort of lack of. That might, I don't know. Well, this is a part of the dream. We're going to be back. That was so smooth. We're going to be back after this.
Welcome back to Doing the Thing. This is Erin, and I'm here with James and Ashleigh, and we're going to turn now to music. And in case you haven't heard, Billy Joel recently canceled all forthcoming tour dates after being diagnosed with a rare brain disorder that I hadn't even heard of, called normal pressure hydrocephalus. And so unfortunately, he has had to cancel all of his upcoming shows. So this led us to ask, which artist do you want to see either for the first time or one more time? And it can be dead or alive. James, is there someone you want to see?
It's such a good question. Oh, feels like I wrote it. So I'm going to be honest, and I don't want to sound a certain way. I'm relieved with this news because Billy Joel is an artist that I would like to see, and I failed to get tickets for his 2 upcoming UK dates. And so actually there's a bit of schadenfreude that nobody else gets to see him either. But obviously I hope he gets better soon and that I can go see him. But he's an artist that I've only discovered really in the past 2 years. And this is a part of like having access to all of the music forever and TikTok resurfacing old songs. I knew obviously like the really famous songs, but to actually dig into his albums, he's become an album that last year when I travelled a lot, I would listen to on flights. And so he's absolutely an artist. Who else? I feel like I've been so lucky to see so many, like a band that I'd always wanted to see my whole life was Kiss, the sort of glam rock band. And I got to see them on their like final tour. And that was, I always say, musically a very poor concert, but like visually and just as an experience goes, it was incredible. And I actually nearly cried when that gig finished because they had been a band that I'd followed for like 15 years and it felt like it had all been leading up to being able to see them live and to then know that, at least based on their plans, I'd never be able to do that again. I think I've been so fortunate to see so many of the bands and artists that I loved growing up. But yeah, actually, like Billy Joel is one of them. Ashleigh, what about you?
I think if I'm going to pick a band that's got members who are no longer with us, Led Zeppelin would be the sort of archetypal example because they broke up long before I was born, even because of the death of John Bonham. They've played things since with his son, but to see them in their prime would be the sort of like dream pick. More realistically, the band Against Me, they're all still alive, but they're just the main singer, she's doing solo touring. The others are doing other things. There's no reason they couldn't get back together. I want them to. They were so good. I just never got the chance to see them, but they're a deeply personal band to me. Folk punk and punk rock. But they mean a lot to me. So it would mean a lot to get that chance to see them if I ever could.
Erin, what about you?
Well, and I've been lucky enough to see Billy Joel. Billy Joel was the second concert I ever saw in my life. And I saw him when I was a kid, and I saw him with my dad, and my dad passed away last year. And so Billy Joel is like so personal to me. I love Billy Joel so much because of that connection there. And that experience of like hearing his music live was amazing. Even as a young kid, I appreciated it so much. So I hope everybody gets a chance to see him because he's so special and he doesn't even realize how special he is. But yes, that was a great one. For me, there are so many. As far as like going to the ones that one of the lead singers no longer alive, definitely The Clash would be like probably number one. And then also, and I saw them live, but to see them again would be this band called The Cramps, which very few people even know who they are. And I saw them, and it was one of the most unique concert experiences I've ever had. The lead singer, Lux Interior, he was like this just totally different kind of human being, like just so unique. And they had this opening band that did like a puppet show beforehand. It was such a cool experience. And so I would love to see them again. And then also, because we kind of did something like this, similar to this in a way, when we were talking about Stevie Nicks releasing a new album soon. We were talking about who we want to see release new albums. And I would love to see Journey live. I've never seen Journey live, but I would love to see them live with Steve Perry. And that'll probably never happen. But I would love to see them with Steve Perry coming back. So, but lots of them, because I love live music.
Yeah. Well, I just actually, as we were talking about this, I think back to like the artists from when I was growing up, the music that really influenced me. One band that I wish I'd seen was Aerosmith. And I feel like because, like, I feel like they're definitely probably not going to do a big live international tour again. And the other person who I'm very confident isn't going to, but I would love to, is Carole King. And she did a massive show at Hyde Park probably about 10 years ago now. That that we never went to. So it is a shame, and I think this is a message to all of us that, like, when your favorite artist is performing, you sort of have to, like, go and get a ticket, because you don't know if that might be the last time they come to your city or your country or their final tour. We live in an era where we're so used to artists and bands announcing final tours that never seem to end. But, like, there's loads of artists and bands that they just one day stop touring for whatever reason it might be and stop playing live. Do you feel like one of the things that's been my reflection this year is that post-COVID, the past 2 years, I've much live music. And this year I've been really, really struggling. And by the end of the year, I would have only been to 2, maybe 3 concerts this year, currently, based on what I've got booked. Like, I've really struggled with finding things that I want to see. Have you guys been seeing that as well this year?
I gotta say no, but that's my particular, in that I have somebody who's trying to catch up to seeing live music, in the sense that, like, when I was younger, I just kind of didn't know whether it was just a lack of opportunity or time. But this year, I recently saw Viagra Boys in Manchester, post-punk band from Sweden. And they are that was phenomenal. It's totally worth going. I want to see more. But as a result, I've not, like, struggled really in that sense, other than just trying to find the bands that I want that are on near me geographically.
Erin, what about you?
I love live music. I love music's my favorite art form. I love going to concerts. But at the same time, the older I've gotten, the more I'm like, I hate being with so many people in this huge thing. It's just, I went to a concert actually 2 days ago at Red Rocks in Colorado in the United States, which is one of the best concert venues ever to see a concert at. But I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so old. This concert's starting at like 9 o'clock at night, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're not gonna get home until like really late. And so it's not so much that there's an oversaturation, it's more I've gotten to the point where I'm like, do I really want to do this? It has to be someone very special, someone I've never seen, or someone I really want to see, in order to get me to go do it, where it used to not be that way at all. It used to be I was seeing like at least like, I don't know, like 10 concerts a summer or something like that. And also, I think the other thing is the cost is so awful right now that it's becomes where it's prohibitive for people to go see anything anymore. That's the problem, I think. That's a bigger issue, I think, than the oversaturation. And also the fact that because of our technology-driven lives, people don't want to just sit there and enjoy the music. Instead, they're on their phones the whole time, or they're recording, or like the concert we were at, someone right behind us had their flash on and the light from their phone so bright, and just like, can you please turn that off? We're trying to watch this. So it's also that it's, plays into that whole thing of people don't know how to behave in public kind of thing. So I think that's what makes it less appealing to me. I'd rather go to like a local like bar or smaller club and see a band there than go to a huge stadium, for sure.
That's so interesting. I will say, on the phones thing, I go to the theater a lot, and that's my biggest gripe, because you're in a room that at maximum capacity, if you're going to see a big show, is 2,000 people. I can see your screen brightness from miles away. Like, you're not fooling anybody, and I think that does ruin it for so many people. But yeah, I think that's really interesting. Ashleigh, is there, I don't know, do you have any final thoughts on this?
I think the phones thing is like a facet of I don't know, just trends, I guess. I think it whether how badly it affects a performance is it kind of dependent on how big the crowd is, really. I think the bigger the crowd, the less it's a thing. It's really gauche if you were in like a really small, intimate theater and you get your phone out. That's especially since the performers can see it.
Yeah.
It's kind of but I think the ticket prices really is the big thing. Ticketmaster, and even for like big name acts like with the Oasis reunion, even then people knew it was going to be expensive, and it was still just eye-wateringly pricey, with very little ability for people, unless you're a diehard fan with a bunch of cash, you're just not going to get to see these acts. You have to find the up-and-comers, which is good. It encourages you to find up-and-coming bands, but it also means that people do get crowded out as attending live stuff just becomes something for the haves.
Yeah.
That's like the band All American Rejects just recently announced they're only going to do like smaller, like even like house parties almost, because they want to have younger people and people that don't have the funds be able to see them. So it will take acts like, pushing back on that in order for that to ever change, the greed and everything. So that's the problem, I think. It's definitely the greed in the music industry.
A band that I've seen more times than I can count is The Who, and they've announced their final ever US tour, and their last date in America is in Vegas, and it's around about the time that I went to Vegas last year, and I thought, you know what, if I can get tickets, like I'm going to try to get tickets when they go on sale, and then I can book a trip to America around it. $2,500. I was like, I can't, like, that's double what I would have paid for, hotel room, food for the whole trip, flights, going on a bloody helicopter ride. Like that breaks the budget. And it's just sad because that's like, could have been a real like defining moment of my life and of so many people, but it is now reserved. Those weren't even the greatest tickets in the venue. So how many people now are not going to be able to experience that? And it just makes these spaces that are reserved for the ultra rich.
Exactly. Yeah. It happens with conventions too. Like in particular for Supernatural is they can only do creation conventions, and creation knows that. So they up the prices so much that it makes it that regular people have a harder time going. And it's the same kind of thing. It's just like, we'll just keep make it harder and harder because of greed. Whereas I think if you didn't do that, although you say if you didn't do that, you'd have more people there, but they still sell out. So it's still like, they're not like learning anything because everybody still buys the tickets. So until people don't, they won't stop charging that much.
Here's hoping. But that is all we have time for this week on Doing the Thing Day. Thank you, Erin and James. Erin, we'll go to you first. If our listeners want more Erin, where can they get more Erin?
You can go to my podcast. It's a Fandom Things website. It's a fandomthingpod.com. There you can find links to all our past episodes, social media, all of that.
And James, I feel like it should be apparent for our listeners, but if they want more of your content,
it's right here. It says no, it's just here. So, Ashleigh, what about you?
Well, yeah, funnily enough, if you stick around for about 5 minutes, you'll be hearing more of me because I'm on next with Ashleigh Stiles Live talking current affairs stuff. You can catch new episodes of Doing the Thing live on Wizard Radio Station every Sunday from 8 p.m. UK time and on all podcast platforms from Monday morning following. Thank you for listening. We're going to see you all next week.